Welcome back to BetHaven, the safe place for safe plays. Back for the Waste Management Phoenix Open in Phoenix, Arizona this week. But before we get into this week's picks, let's recap last week. All right, so last week at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, how did you do? I don't even remember who
I did okay. It was kind of a split week for me. I had some really good stuff going into the weekend, and Rory screwed it all up for me. We said on the podcast that Rory, I believe the exact words were, if Rory beats me with his with his wedges and putting, then he beats me and I'll just have to take it. And that's exactly what happened. His driver was obviously great, as we expected it to be. Didn't think it was going to matter so much, but the real X factor for him this week was his wedges, was his putting. He screwed me. On Sunday, he screwed me. He was fantastic. I had a ticket on Lowry. I had a ticket on Tom Kim. I had a ticket on Glover. And none of those guys could manage to just stop making bogeys. They actually did make birdies. Every single one of those guys made birdies, and at one point it was like, oh my God, I think they might win. And then they would do something stupid.
I tell you, Lucas Glover would have given Rory a run for his money if he didn't putt like he normally does.
God, he was flushing it. We'll get into stats too. The stats would back that up, but he was flushing it and just had tons of looks, made some of them, but in the end, not enough. And in the end, Rory did
what Rory does.
He took it to that next level in the back nine. He made, I think it was like 9 or 10. He made like a putt he made a birdie putt that nobody was birdieing that hole, and that just kind of lit the fire, and it was a wrap from there.
The shot that I knew that it was officially over was the drive on 14. Is that the par 5?
The one that goes to the right.
He takes it over. He was the only person that took that line pretty much all week.
Well, then to cap it off too, even his second shot.
Yeah,
I think it was.
Well, he was so close at that point.
Or something.
It was 201. He hit a 7-iron, and he absolutely flushed it.
Yeah, people weren't holding that green, and for him to flush it up there,
kept it on the top tier. Yeah,
and then eventually ends up making the damn putt on top of it all, was just like, yeah, this is over.
Yeah, my outrights, and if you don't follow us on X, make sure you do that, because I posted this little snippet before the round on Thursday. I think I posted this Wednesday night, but it was the outright tickets, which I had Adam Scott, Finau, Akshay, and Benyon, who I don't know what Akshay did on Sunday, but
up and down. He actually made a ton of birdies, but then he had some bogeys in there.
That was his whole entire tournament, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he was like 1 under, 2 under.
Adam Scott goes bananas on Sunday, shoots like 8 under.
He was one of the few guys that went crazy.
Shot maybe 5 or 6 under Sunday. Like all my outrights, all of a sudden decided to play golf on Sunday, and even Finau shot 3 under. He had 2 chip-ins like down the stretch, which was pretty crazy, but. Yeah, if you didn't, obviously we didn't cash any of those outrights, but if you looked at the tweet, you would have seen that I had Henley first round leader on Spyglass at 28-1. That was the only thing that I really hit on all weekend. I live bet Tom Kim right before he birdied the par 3 on Sunday. I when he made that putt, I was like, okay, he's gonna make a charge here. Rory had just bogeyed, and then it just kind of everything flipped. So
he's just not consistent enough. He can get hot and do really well, and he can make some putts that you don't expect him to make. But yeah, he could not stop making bogeys at the worst time.
Yeah. Well, Rory was only like I don't even think he was plus odds at that point. He had just bogeyed, but he was still minus odds, and I was using a boost on
the one I knew Tom Kim was done when he bogeyed the par 5 after he flushed a drive. Yeah. He had like 210 in, where like
is that the one he hit it right out?
Yeah, and he missed it by a mile. It looked like
something that you would do.
It was terrible. It was like, dude, what are you doing?
It was really bad.
Just leave it short of the green, or I don't know, something. But
I saw honestly there was a stretch on that hole on Sunday where I saw like Finau went out over there, or I don't know if he ended up dropping, but the shot link said to rock outline. I was following it on my phone.
I think Lowry hit it up there too.
Yep. It was really weird how all of those guys were missing right. It must have been something with the wind maybe that they weren't feeling from down below. But I mean, overall positive for the tournament because of that Henley first round leader. And then I made a DraftKings team that kind of consisted of all the players that I didn't really want to bet outside of I had on it and I had Finau on it. And then I had Rory because I just felt like I don't remember what I said on the show about him, but I do remember saying at some point that I just had a weird feeling about Rory. He was 16-1 on Bet365, and I hadn't used my boost at this point. I put the boost on him, and I just never could get myself to click submit. His, zero course history essentially at Pebble Beach, or positive course history for Rory. But if you think about it, you're like, I mean, classic course. Rory's a pretty classic golfer outside of his just, absolute bombs that he hits off the tee. But yeah, it was actually kind of fun to watch Sunday, even though I didn't really have anybody in the mix. I'm sure it wasn't as fun for you because you just...
No, I had a ton of stuff in the mix. I had, like I said, I had those outrights, and then I had DraftKings teams that consisted of a lot of those guys. Really had a great week, except for I just didn't nail the top of the board. I had Morikawa on a lot. I had Matsuyama on a lot, and Matsuyama never really did anything.
Mm-hmm.
Morikawa quietly ended up getting a top 20. But just, I didn't nail the top of the board, but I crushed it in the middle of the board. I had Lowry. I had Tom Kim. I even mentioned on this show, you were asking me about bottom of the board guys. I had Bez, who made a ton of birdies, but again, couldn't stop making bogeys as well. I had Glover. I had, who else was up there? I mean, there was tons of guys that I had that were in contention, but again, I had no Rory. I mean, I sort of nailed it with Scotty. I don't think Scotty was necessarily a must-have. He was obviously...
He wasn't. I don't think he was in the main lineup.
He probably wasn't in the winning, top winning lineups. I had zero. I ended up, full fading Scotty after going back and forth on it. But yeah, I mean, it was a positive week on DraftKings DFS, but I lost on outrights. So kind of mad week, and we'll run it back.
Well, not as good of a week for me, just because we hit English the week before, obviously at 125-1. So I had the 28-1 this week. So I just feel like as long as we keep finding that one bet, even if it's something kind of silly like a live bet for a top finish or anything like that, just kind of keep pushing through for that. But why don't we just get into the Waste Management Open here? Fun tournament, obviously. If you're a golfer, if you're somebody that golfs or even just watches but doesn't play, which that's pretty rare at this point, this is a bucket list course. It's a bucket list course to go watch golf be played at, and it's a bucket list course to play at. In my opinion.
We'll have to go sometime. Never been, but yeah, this is a course where I don't know if you've seen the videos. People are starting to post like past videos of
it gets rowdy.
The fans, not even the golf, the fans.
It gets
where gravity
rowdy.
is undefeated.
Yeah.
There are guys like stumbling and fighting it. It's pretty entertaining. I'm sure a good people watch.
Yeah,
spot.
and last year, I don't know if you remember, but there was a lot of like really bad weather. It was cold and it was rainy, and I don't know if they oversold or what the exact story was there, but I do remember seeing reports of like just massive amounts of people at this tournament that were just sloppy drunk. The course was soaking wet. There was people falling, and just like it got almost too out of control. And I think they're trying to reel that in just a little bit. So it'll be curious to see if they like ramp up security or maybe have like limits to how much alcohol they're serving people, or maybe watch them a little bit more closely.
That should be in general. They shouldn't be serving people who can't stand at the bar.
Right.
I mean, so hopefully they don't do that. But yeah, I'm all for a good time and having fun. But there's a limit, especially at a PGA Tour event. You have to walk the line. We'll see though. Hopefully we can hit a big winner. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So let's get into it. I don't know if you want to just go ahead and jump into the course preview and stats. We can go from there.
Okay. So for me, the key stats this week are going to be heavy on approach. This is not a course where putting is typically that difficult. You see some of your meh to not great putters win here. So key stats for me are going to be approach from 150 to 175, approach from 125 to 150, par 5 birdie or better. You're getting 3 here. You need to take advantage of them. Greens in regulation percentage. And then I'm also going to be looking at the strokes gain approach from last week at Pebble, since we got a lot of golfers. I don't want to say a lot, but we've got several golfers in this field that played last week that had pretty good approach stats last week, and hopefully they can carry that over into this week. So for me, as you can imagine, if you have a ton of approach stats, it's Scotty Scheffler. I full faded him last week. It semi worked out. It didn't burn me. He finishes T9, but he was number one in the field strokes gained on approach last week, which is pretty impressive. I'm sure you saw, like I saw, he didn't really make a lot of putts. He kind of burned a lot of edges. He was almost confused at sometimes with this how much spin the ball was having at times and how much spin it wasn't having at times. He just he looked a little rusty in my opinion, but he still was number one in strokes gained approach. And now we're going to a course where approach is like the number one most important thing you can have. I just can't get around not betting this guy. I will have him 100% on DraftKings lineups. He's number one in this field, strokes gained approach 150 to 175, sixth from 125 to 150, first in par 5 birdie or better, second in greens and regulation percentage, and he was first last week at Pebble. Those are stats that you just can't overlook, and so I'm going to be getting a ton of him. I don't know about you.
So right now I've made two outright bets, and I've made one DraftKings lineup, and I started that lineup with Scotty. He's the most expensive golfer, per usual. I think he's 12,000 flat, maybe
12,000 flat.
Yeah. So started with Scotty,
which is a lot, but we've also seen him higher.
Right. Well, and with this tournament, obviously last week was a signature event. You had a limited field. This tournament, I feel like, brings in a little bit more opportunity for you to get to the low guys. Obviously, it's a little bit more volatile because there is a cut. There was no cut last week. But if you can find some of the cheaper guys that you feel good about, starting with Scotty is honestly pretty easy. And
it's not hard to do.
Yeah.
No, not this week.
And it's, it's something that can be done very, last week, I think Justin Rose was 6,300. Now, I would call that a complete misprice personally, but I think you can find guys that either have good success at Scottsdale or just are a good stat fit that are down the board. And I've got a couple of those in mind already. I don't know if you've got any long shots that you've been taking a look at, but
I do. I have a couple.
I've got one that you're gonna love. I mean, you're gonna love it so much.
You want to go?
Yeah. You ready for this?
What you got?
Michael Thorbjornsen is heavy on my radar this week. Obviously, the stats that you rattled off are very important. The 150 to 175. I don't remember what I found. I typically will listen to your course stats and your fits and kind of base my final decisions off of that. But my initial research is based on finding guys that have either continued success or like patterned success at courses. So I'll find a guy that can go super low at either Waste Management or one of the comp courses, and then kind of work my way out from there. And in my just general research, I want somebody that is driver heavy, controls their driver, and has the opportunity and can get hot with their irons. Thorbjornsen is going to be kind of, he's one of those guys that a lot of people have had on their radar recently, and I don't know if he's burned them enough to make them forget about him a little bit.
Probably
but
some. I mean, he's burned me several times at this point.
And I'm definitely a sucker for trying to find that person that burns people, and then you just kind of wait till everybody's off of him and you jump back on. And for me, he's one of the first guys that really jumped out, that was down the board, 7,000 on DraftKings. Haven't looked at his odds. I haven't bet him yet, but I will bet him. I think I'm going to wait and use the boost on him.
He's I saw 150 to 1.
150. That's yeah. I mean, I think at some points recently we've seen him down as like 70, 80 range. A lot of people focused on Luke Clanton. Obviously, he's a very talented player as well, up and comer. But I think Thorbjornsen, for the price, for the odds, is going to be one of my favorite plays this week.
I can't argue with it. He has burned me several times already this year, and even last year, where I was a big fan. I can see his potential. He can at times remind you of a mini Aubert. He's really good with the driver, hits it a mile, but he's not quite a pro yet. And the reason I don't hate the bet is because he is 7,000. He is 150 to 1 now. He has it in him to be like top of the leaderboard, but he has it in him to make a triple out of nowhere. But I don't mind taking the chance. I'll definitely have some on DraftKings, partly just because I'm a sucker, and we'll see. But yes, I get what you're saying. There will probably be a lower percentage on him this week than there has been probably earlier this season.
Right.
A guy for me that, speaking of guys that are just, burning people, but I'm just going to go back to him anyways, is Doug Gim.
The Gim Reaper.
The Gim Reaper. He is fifth in this field. Strokes can approach 150 to 175. He is fifth in this field, 125 to 150. He is third in greens and reg percentage. And even last week, after having a not so great week, he was seventh in approach. He just needs to figure out how to putt just a little bit.
Yep.
And he'll contend here. Putting has been abysmal, but the approach, the off the tee, everything's great. But putting has been bad. But again, like I said this week, putting is usually not as big of a factor at this course as it is at other courses. If he could just putt to a zero, I'll take my chances. This is a classic, team no putt golf course,
which is why it's one of my favorite events, because like I said, you can find a ton of guys that have decent tee to green numbers and that are just bad at putting. And that is that's like my model every week. I'm waiting for somebody to just kind of spike putting. And this course gives me statistically that putting doesn't matter as much here. So that's why I think it's a little bit easier to go back to my usual strategy, find guys that are striking the ball well or have the potential to, and don't necessarily care about the putting as much. So,
so Doug Gim is 100. He's also 150 to 1. And
he's never won on tour, correct? Are you on Data Golf?
I don't think he has. I don't know.
Are you on Data Golf or are you on Rick?
I'm on both.
Let's see. If you just go to the top, it'll tell you. I don't think he's ever won anything on the PGA Tour. I'm not sure if he's got any Korn Ferry wins or anything like that.
I'm sure.
No, his best finish is a second place at Shriners, T5 at American Express, T6 at Players. Both of those are comp courses, by the way. Shriners, Desert Course, and Players is another TPC course. T12 here last year. I don't know if you said that already, but yeah, he's one of those guys that it's kind of like what you said, or what I said. You want them controlling their off the tee. You want them controlling their irons. And then once they get on the green, you just kind of hope and pray that they make a couple putts. So yeah, definitely don't hate Gim here. He was one of those guys that last year, I think I picked him so many different times. I was just like, okay, I'm not, if he wins this year, I won't be that upset, but I just can't continue to ride that train until he shows me win equity. Let's see. A couple other guys that I'm looking at. I wrote this down. So I've seen a lot of people going back to the Andrew Novak train. I could see it. I think he actually did well here last year. I picked him at Farmers Insurance. I don't know if I'm gonna. Those types of guys, they kind of scare me. Like, obviously he's hot right now. I don't know what did he do last week. Yeah, another T13.
Yeah, he was around.
Another really good putting week. So he gained 1.3 at Farmers. He gained 1.1 last week. Lost off the tee a little bit last week. I'm really focused on finding guys. Like I said, I want drivers of the golf ball. And then if they're middling in approach, or they've been better at approach and maybe not so hot right now, I'm hoping for a flip on that. So I could see Andrew Novak winning a tournament like this. He kind of has more personality than I thought now that he's been in contention a couple of times. I've seen him on camera a little bit. He made that huge putt on Farmers on the last day and kind of threw his hands up like, what the just happened? So yeah, I think he's the type of player that can win a golf tournament like this. I will not be going back to that though. I think we should go just kind of down the board on DraftKings here if you want, since we're going to be a little bit more DFS focused this week.
Yeah, let me just give off my biggest long shot, my way down the board pick this week that I actually really do like, and we'll probably have a lot of, and hopefully it doesn't burn me. Will be Joel Dahmen. He is 6,400 on DraftKings. He, I believe, is an Arizona resident. I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure he either is or was. But anyways, Joel Dahmen has been pretty good this year so far. Fourth in approach from 150 to 175. Second in approach from 125 to 150. And what else was? Oh, and greens and regulation percentage, 11th in this field. He's also 16th in this field in strokes gained approach in his last 24 rounds. I will take my chances on a guy that is hitting his irons good and hope that he gets high. I mean, if there's anybody in this field that could ride the wave and will be very popular around the golf course and around the grounds of people cheering for somebody, you know it's going to be Joel Dahmen. They're going to love that guy. They're going to be cheering for him as loud as anybody. Very popular player. Maybe if he, feels the good vibes, he can play above his normal.
Yeah, that's sort of like an added element to this tournament. You have the 16th hole, which is the stadium hole. I think I heard that like 20,000 people are gathered around that hole or something stupid like that at capacity. Yeah, it's just like you have so many more eyes on you, I think, at this place. And like, that's why like the personality thing plays a little bit of a factor here. Now, Scotty's not necessarily the prototypical like party guy, because this tournament really is just like a gigantic party. From all of the videos that you see, all the reports you see, it's just a big golf party. So I think it's about time somebody like Dahmen that has a little bit more spunk, especially on the golf course, wins this thing. And I don't know what would you say his odds were?
350 to 1.
Yeah, they do not respect him on the books at all. No. I mean, even through the fall swing, I mean, I remember he was just like massive numbers on all of those events as well. But yeah, Dahmen, very popular ever since the full swing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty difficult for him to win this golf tournament. But also, this field isn't like crazy.
No, it's
stacked.
not.
It's a little top heavy. Like you've got some names at the top there, but it falls off pretty good once you get past like the top like 6 guys or something.
Yeah,
like,
I think once you get into like
off hard.
The range of skill from the guys at like 45 to 1 and beyond is much, much smaller than the range of skills.
We got Scotty, JT, Matsuyama.
Like those 3 guys.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
But then it's like Burns, Connors, Tom Kim, Thigala, Straka. It's like, you kind of fall off there after the top 3, and then especially after like the top 10. Like we're looking at Højgaard and On and McIntyre and Kitayama. Like those guys would be middle to lower in like a full field, like a U.S. Open or something.
They're respecting Rasmus Højgaard quite a bit, I think. He played. Was that first PGA event last week? I mean,
for him to be 10th highest priced golfer this week on DraftKings.
He's kind of a DP World Tour like star child, but yeah, I don't know. Do you think Scott? I mean, obviously Scotty's what, 3.5 to 1 at this point.
Yes, I'm not going to bet him. Interesting week if you wanted to use the without market this week, outright betting. Yeah. You could do the bet on whoever without Scotty. That's just not ever what I'm going to do. I'm either going to bet the guy or I'm not. For me this week, it will be 100% DFS, Scotty Scheffler. I will have him on every lineup. But for outrights, I will honestly probably just play the outrights at whatever number I get them. If I get 350 to 1 on Joel Dahmen or 150 on Gim, there's a couple other guys too that I think have pretty good numbers. I'll just take my chances and hope that, maybe it's a duel at the end and I can cheer for Scotty for my DFS lineups, and I can cheer for, Dahmen or whoever for outright purposes.
Yeah, I didn't even tell you whom I made 2 bets prior. Like right when I woke up this morning, I looked at because last night I looked and was trying to see if they had posted the odds yet. I think DK had them up already, but I haven't been betting on DK for the outrights because their numbers are just a little bit smaller typically. But on Bet365, I bet Daniel Berger at 110 to 1. A guy that had struggled with the putter many times last year, but has shown his flashes of his previous self from back in the 2020, 2021 times where he was honestly one of the better players on tour. So I bet him at 110 to 1, and then in my research, just going back and forth, looking at approach stuff, looking at comp stuff, I kept seeing this name a lot, and I couldn't bet it just outright. I did it with an each way. But CT Pan popped on so many different stats for me. And I was just like, all right, well, he's going to be my long shot down the board guy. Like I said, I think he was like 200 to 1 if I did the enhanced win or just the typical outright with the the each way. 5 places, it was 175 to 1. So I put a little doll hair on that.
Okay.
Not actually a dollar.
He's a yeah, kind of a boom guy. Like he's
we've
either
seen,
misses the cut or all of a sudden you see his name in contention.
Well, and honestly, I'm basing it on past success on compilatory courses, and I even think his history here sucks, but like players he's had success at randomly and some courses like that. But if you look at what he did in the fall, towards the end of the fall, T23 at Shriners, again, that's a comp course because it's sort of a deserty course. T6 at the Zozo, where Nico Echeverria won. I think he beat Justin Thomas out over there. And then to start this season, a T21 at Sony Open. So maybe finding some form here. Obviously closed strong last year, and his first start this year was a T21 where he gained on the surfaces mostly, but I think from his approach standpoint, he's shown me that he can do the 150 to 175 pretty well.
Yeah. Guys that did good last week, I didn't mention. I like Glover again for DraftKings purposes. He's 80 to 1. I don't know if I'll bet 80 to 1, but he was flushing it like we talked about. He ended up being second in approach for the week.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go with your typical, if everything that we're saying, where it's like guys that flush it but don't necessarily aren't the greatest putters, like he's a poster child of that.
Yep.
So yeah, I think 80 to 1's definitely a fair number there.
Another guy that I have interest in this week is Maverick McNeely. Maverick was third in approach last week on his home-ish course or whatever. Didn't putt at all, which is kind of weird. But sometimes when you think you're supposed to do good at an event, it like clicks like a week late. I've seen it happen before in all kinds of different aspects, whether it's even fishing tournaments. Like guys think like, I'm going to my home lake, I'm going to do good. And then like the week after is the week you do good. I don't know. Weird feeling about Maverick McNeely. I feel like he could be live here, especially if he's hitting his irons well. He was, like I said, third for the week. He was second on the final day in approach. Ends up T40, but he could be kind of a sneaky one. And then Akshay, just because he's Akshay. He ends up finishing T22. Felt like he would make a birdie, then a bogey, then a birdie, then a bogey the whole week. He ends up pretty good on approach. Last day he gained over a shot on approach. Yeah, he was just fine. He was okay. Just kept making mistakes like a lot of guys. But 75 to 1, just boom potential. This will be a broken record all year for me. I will probably just take my chances, put my $10 or whatever on him, and hope it works out.
He could be a guy that returns you a lot of money or loses you a lot of money.
Yeah, he could. But if he's going to continue to be numbers like this, like, I don't know, dude. 75 to 1. Again, it's just like, in my head, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And until he starts to, like, his numbers start to falter or something, like, I'll continue to bet him. Pulling up his numbers real quick here. Like, I don't remember seeing anything wrong with his numbers. Yeah, he's basically neutral-ish, which is, like I said, it's fine. Nothing great, nothing awful. Just kind of.
It's gonna click for him at some point, and he's gonna go on a run. That's my prediction for him. Is, he's probably gonna have some sporadic finishes, maybe some miscuts to start the season, but then there's gonna be that event where he just like figures it out, and then it's gonna be just a streak of good finishes from there. That's kind of where I see it going with him. I don't know if I'll get to him this week, but something that could be interesting to think about is after he made a big putt at the Valero, he did a real hard, fist bump, and he dislocated his shoulder. If there's any other tournament out there that would require him or maybe force him to do a little extra fist pump in action, it's going to be this one. So I'm a little scared that he's going to dislocate his shoulder again. He's going to have to get rubbed out by the doctor on the course again. Pause. But yeah, no, hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think Akshay is, you're going to say his name a lot. We're going to say his name a lot. I think that his time is coming. I just don't know if it's going to be this week. Could be though. 75 to 1 is definitely worth a bullet.
Yep. And then one more guy that I have written down here that I normally don't ever have written down is Minwoo Lee. Minwoo Lee was 8th in approach last week, and approach really usually isn't his thing.
No, he's not an iron guy at all.
Over his history, but last 24 rounds, he is green. He is gaining across the board, putting around the greens, approach off the tee. I feel like this could be a good environment for Minwoo Lee too.
Let him cook.
7,900 on DraftKings. He is 65 to 1 is what I'm seeing. Maybe you can shop that. 65 to 1 on probably 365 is where I found that. I don't know. Just another gut feeling like Mav. Like, I don't know. I just kind of, there's enough on the approach from last week to make me think that they can transfer that over and have a good week.
Yeah, 65 to 1 on 365 is what I'm seeing. Yeah, good. Like I said, just not typically an iron guy. He honestly was, I think I posted a second round leader or lowest round for second round on Friday, and he was that guy, and he was 5 under, and I was feeling so good about it. I was like, oh my God, this dude's going to do it. It was 30 to 1, and then he hit it in a bunker, then he hit it in another bunker. He bogeyed or doubled or something. He just like found a way to just kind of crumble. I think he ended up shooting like 1 under, and he was 5 under through like 9 or 10 at that point. So
yeah, I didn't even mention my awful beat on here. I should announce to everybody I had Thigala round 4, I believe, to shoot 1 under or better, 71.5 or under. I had him for $50, which is like a bigger bet than I probably usually do. $50 to win like 100. He was 3 under, standing on the 17th tee box where he bogeyed, and then he hit it out of bounds on 18, right, not even left in the ocean. He hit it right, and ended up making a double to shoot his even par round. And there you go. That's a tough beat.
Yeah. You got anybody that you're just kind of got a weird feeling about that you want to throw out there? You said you have a weird feeling about Mav, but just
weird feeling about Mav and Minwoo. Another one that you could probably go down the board a little bit would be Dunlap. Dunlap 100.
He popped up on a lot of different stuff for me.
Did he? Yeah. So we actually got to see him in person, and he looks like a pro when you see him play golf. Like he looks like he belongs. Like he would be one of the top guys. He's still a young kid here, kind of figuring out his way. $7,000 on DraftKings, 151 or 152-1 to win the golf tournament. He was 4th in approach last week at Pebble. He is 6th in par 5 birdie or better percentage. He's pretty good. Off the tee, he's struggling his last 24 rounds though. That's what I'm seeing here. Approach has been good, putting's good, around the green neutral. Not sure why his off the tee is as bad as it is. He's losing about a shot per round off the tee.
He's so errant with the driver at times. Like, and we saw he kind of hasn't figured out. Obviously, he's clutched it up on a couple occasions, but there's times where it's like he gets in his own way. Yeah. You had him first round leader, I believe, at the John Deere, and he had it in the bag, and then like plugged it into a bunk, like the one bunker you can't hit it into.
He was like 3 clear. Like he was the afternoon wave. I think everybody was kind of finished up. He was like 8 under. The second place was like 5 under. And it was like, dude, just hit 3 more greens here, and this is over.
Yep.
And just made a mistake. But that's what I'm talking about, kind of with Thor. Like him and Thor, I think Akshay is going to grow out of it this year. Just don't make that freaking mistake when you got to keep the round going. Like keep the momentum going. Make a par. If you make a bogey, make a birdie on the next hole. Don't let those linger and multiply. And that's being a true pro. And these guys will have to learn that, and they'll either figure it out or they won't. And but he is a boom potential guy for sure.
Yeah. I'm just gonna rattle off 3 names, kind of top of the board, middle of the board, bottom of the board that I really like, and that's all inclusive. That's both DFS and odds boards. At the top, 9,700 on DraftKings. I'm feeling funny about Corey Connors. We've seen him over the years just randomly pop across all categories. He's always been a solid iron player. Can be that off the tee guy where when he gets hot with his driver, it's just like the dude can put it on a string. It's the putting that usually kind of throws him out of the contention every now and then. Again, we're going to a place where that doesn't really matter as much.
Good stats last 24 rounds. He's gaining across the board. Last week at Pebble, not a good week. He lost except for off the tee. He was a gainer, half a shot, but lost on approach, lost around the greens, and lost putting. T65 finish. So a rough week last week, but I see what you're saying because last 24 it's all green.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I don't necessarily get like I'm not gonna call last week. I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but I feel like Pebble Beach conditions on Saturday were way worse than they were anticipating, and then just guys that like weren't scoring early probably just coasted. And I think I saw that with a couple different guys where it's like they didn't really fight to get to a position because they knew the course was playing way too easy, in my opinion, on Thursday and Friday. The guys were going low, and even on Sunday, I mean, Rory could have gone out there and probably posted a 2 under and still would have been okay, or 2 or 3 under. I don't know what the actual what it would have been based on where he started. I think it was he started 15 or 16.
Yeah, I think he ended up winning by 2, and on 18 he didn't even try to make a birdie on 18. He just tried to make a par.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I did see a lot of guys that really just didn't look like they ever put that extra pedal down a little bit just to try and get to a certain spot. They were there to collect the check and move on. Another guy that's kind of middle-ish of the board, I don't really know what his odds are, but he's 7,800 on DK. Davis Thompson, go ahead.
Totally random, and we didn't even talk about it, but Aubert withdrew.
Yes.
Which ended up being a great call here on the podcast. Yep. We mentioned that him still getting over the sickness. I'm sure that there was plenty of people I saw in the community that were going back to him. They were like deciding like, he's fine, I'm going back to him. Here on the Bet Haven, we did not go back to him, and that worked out in our favor for sure because a lot of people did have him, and he was still sick like we talked about. Like, you don't just get over throwing up and then like 3 days later you're fine to go push your body even more, and clearly he was not okay.
Yeah, he was playing terrible and just
he's clearly
he never looked right.
He will, and you know what? And I can't wait for him to come back because he will be ready to play then, and he will be good again, and people will probably be hesitant.
Yeah,
but they should have been hesitant this week, not when he comes back in 2 weeks or whenever.
Yeah.
Davis Thompson.
Yeah, Davis Thompson, 7,800 on DraftKings, 75-1, so right there in that kind of Akshay range. If you look at his stats right now to start 2025, the irons or the approach is just horrible. Typically not my strategy to go to a guy that's, losing. He lost 0.21 at Century, lost 1.24 at Sony, 0.12 at American Express, 1.17 at Pebble Beach. Like, the rest of the stats are green for the most part, and then the approach is really bad. If you look at last season for him, he kind of burst onto the scene a little bit. Started with a couple top 20 finishes, and then a second place finish at one of the alternate events, the Myrtle Beach, and then ended up going on to win. Was it John Deere?
Yeah.
But if you just look at his stats from last season, like he all around well-rounded golfer. Now he seems to be struggling with his second shot for the most part. And I think that's going to click at some point, and I'm betting on it to click earlier than later. I don't think he'll be on a ton of people's radars, and even if he is, he's kind of in a sandwich spot price point wise, right below JJ Spawn, who's playing excellent golf, right below Minwoo Lee, who's going to be, I feel like he's going to be kind of a popular pick.
Thompson's a tough figure. Looking at his stats from last week, like I said, lost on approach, neutral putting, gained a little bit around the greens, gained a little bit off the tee, ends up finishing T58. And then last 24 rounds, he's actually been pretty dang good off the tee. Approach has not been good. Around the greens has been good, and the putting's been not so good. So he's a tough figure, man. I could see, maybe like a low percentage ownership play. You're playing against, the guys in that range.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. He's a tough one to figure right now, and all of a sudden it could click.
Yeah. So Thompson for me right there in the middle, and then the very bottom of the board. I did say I put a bet on CT Pan, but for some reason I'm feeling drawn to this player because I bet him at the Farmers Insurance Open and he was horrible. He hasn't played since then. He obviously wasn't playing last week, but Henrik Norlander is somebody that I'll be playing on DraftKings, 6,300 on DK. think he's like 400 to 1 to win. Probably not gonna have an outright on him. I may do like a top 20 with him and Michael Thorpe Bjornsson. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now, but obviously Scotty's in the field. It's giving guys like that, and I'm not saying Henrik has win equity, but guys further down the board that maybe do have win equity, they're just getting these longer numbers because you got Scotty at the top. Like you said, the tournament is very top heavy. Norlander is typically a very good tee to green player for this price range. He is a horrible putter, just bleeds strokes on the green. He's played this tournament twice, lost putting once and gained the other time. I don't know if he made the cut or what he's done officially at the tournament, but I just feel like this guy from the tee to the green is good enough at this price point. Nobody's going to be thinking about him. He'll probably be 1% to 2% owned, and showed some flashes of some solid play during their swing season. So
yeah, he's a good course fit, like you said, for the price range. Last 24 rounds, he's gaining off the tee, gaining on approach, and then losing a pretty good chunk around the greens. Or not around the greens, putting. Around the greens is pretty neutral. But for the price, I don't hate it. I mean, if you're going to have to go down here, which if you want to pick two guys at the top, then you're going to have to. I don't hate it. He fits the course like we're talking about. He fits the mold that we're trying to build here. And if you got to take a shot on somebody, I don't mind it.
All right, well, now that we've talked about most of the things we wanted to talk about, you're starting with Scotty on your DraftKings. Who would you be most likely to go to next if you're building out a lineup?
I would probably go actually like to the bottom and probably click.
So you'd go Scotty and then go down.
I'd go ahead and go down and click like.
You want to build one?
Yeah, that's fine. Like, I'd probably take Damon.
All right, let's see.
And then I'd have to see where that puts me.
All right, here's the $200 single entry. I'm not going to submit this, maybe. So we'll start with Scotty. We'll go down to Damon. I think Damon will be a popular click, especially at 6,400. I'm not saying he's going to be double-digit owned, but I think
he'll be popular too.
He could be 8%, 9%.
Where I'm going to get different this week is going to be in that middle range because Scotty's going to be extremely popular. And as far as like guys in the 6,000s, Damon will probably be one of the more popular clicks. But you could easily, like, if you build this team and you're like, dude, this is way too much ownership, you could swap Damon for Norlander, and all of a sudden, boom, you're different.
Okay, so I've got Scotty and Damon. That leaves you with an average of 7,900. Is there another guy at the top that's like, you're like, I think I need to play him? Because I've seen a lot of love for Burns.
Matsuyama has great course history here, and he didn't have a good week last week. God, it's just so many. Many rounds in a row.
What was bad though? What did he not do well last week?
Not really anything. He
lost on approach.
He lost I'm seeing 0.38 per round on approach. He lost 0.45 off the tee, gained 0.92 around the greens, and was basically a zero putter. He ends up finishing T48.
So here's my concern. If I'm playing devil's advocate, on the days where weather was absolutely perfect, round 1 he lost 2.67 strokes on approach. Round 2 lost 0.97. In the shitstorm of wind and rain and it was playing tough, he somehow gained 1.71. And then Sunday, back to pretty decent weather, lost 1.07.
Well, the main reason I would say Matsuyama would be an ownership thing, like getting different. I don't think a lot of people would probably pick Scotty than Matsuyama. I don't think that that's going to be a very popular build. It's more likely that guys would probably pick Justin Thomas and Matsuyama than Scotty and Matsuyama.
Okay, well, if you pick him, that leaves 71.33 for the remaining guys.
I would have to take Gim
Reaper. What's his price? 72. All right, so that leaves you 7,100. Michael Thorpe Bjornsson's right there. There's a lot of guys right here in this range.
Yeah, there is. This is a tricky. This is where you get different. This is where I feel like
You win the
you win
yeah,
or lose
your contest.
in the $7,000 range this week. You win or lose in the $7,000 range. People are going to take Scotty. Maybe JT will probably be pretty popular. The bottom of the board guys like Damon, like we said, probably pretty popular. You win or lose this week by clicking these guys in the 7,000. Do you take Thor? Do you take Dunlap? Cole will probably be popular.
Jake Knapp is down here at 6,800. I know a lot of people are going to play him,
and I will not be one.
I will not either.
I think Cole's going to be pretty popular. I think it might be time to jump off the Cole train. We'll see. Homa's here. People love Homa, but he's
Homa's
not
where?
been great. He's right here, 7,300.
Whoa. That could be interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do it.
No. I'd click Thor.
I like it. It leaves 7,200.
And then Dunlap.
Okay, so now you've got. Oh wait, no, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, I submitted it.
I mean, it's different. It's different enough in the mid range. Like we said, Damon will be popular. Scott will be popular. But like, how popular is Dunlap, Gim, Matsuyama, and Thor going to be? Like, I don't feel like that popular.
I'm honestly, Gim will model well, right? We're all looking at the same thing.
He's been modeling well.
Yeah,
and I'm sure guys have clicked him, and he ain't really done anything for him. So at what point, like, it's the same thing with Thor. Like, Thor, people have this, this thought that Thor is an amazing golfer, which he can be, but he's probably burned some people too. People that were on Matsuyama last week feel burned by him.
Yeah. I think Dunlap's
a tricky one. I don't know.
They're going to be scared off by the off the tee stuff, but you're talking about a 2-time winner last year. I mean,
but he also was pretty not great last week.
He struggled Saturday. I mean, shot 69, 68, 72 on Saturday, 74 on Sunday.
Like I said, his approach was good, which I love to see. But so was Gim's. But
yeah,
that will be my type of build. It will be something along those lines. You could swap in Akshay and Minwoo and Mav and kind of tweak where you're maybe not taking another 72 guy. You're dropping down to like a 66 guy or something like that.
Yeah, I don't hate that lineup.
You could easily swap somebody and then put in like CT Pan.
Yeah, I agree that the top of the board for me is going to remain pretty much the same. When you get down to that 7K range, it's a cluster, it is a crapshoot.
There's a lot of names in the 7K range, and I think it's going to be won and lost right there. You got to pick the right guy, the right couple of guys, especially between 7,000 and like 7.4. Man, it's just stacked with.
I saw Kuchar's name down there. What the heck's he done lately? A lot of guys that are
the same golfer essentially.
Kuchar last year was like a tee to green monster.
But keep in mind, one thing that I would be keeping in mind for these guys for this week is who played well last week. Like, who's on people's minds? Like, oh yeah, dude, he's balling. Well, Glover's probably going to be pretty popular just from people seeing him hit the ball well last week. Now, I said that I like him to an extent, but I don't like him if he's going to be one of the most popular guys in this range.
Glover will be popular. What do we think about Sepp Straka?
Horschel will be popular. He's 6,000 or 7,600. He got a lot of airtime on Sunday where he was going bananas.
So how much is Sepp?
He's
94.
He was one of the more, yeah.
That'll probably curtail his ownership a little bit, but obviously playing great.
You know what's going to end up being the dead zone where nobody's going to end up picking guys is going to be this 8K range. Like Poston,
Spieth 8,700,
Akshay,
Max Gracerman 86,
Clark, Kitayama, McNeely, like that range there.
You know who's there?
Like, ain't nobody gonna end up in that range.
You know who's there that was that is $1,000 more last week and almost finished in last place? Cam Young.
Yeah, but just no.
You
Just no.
you got any thoughts about Cam
Just
Young?
no. Yeah, I got one thought. He is. Let's see if he's dead last. Let's see.
In putting?
In approach,
Oh,
of all things, he is not dead last. He is 123rd in this field in approach last 24 rounds. I will not be picking Cam Young.
I don't know. I might have to just because I just feel like he's going to win eventually. Is he not? Is he never going to win?
Maybe not. Also, might want to think twice about picking Bo Hostler. He's going to be a popular pick this week. I won't be doing it. He is 116th in this field on approach last 24 rounds. It's worse than Kevin Kisner.
That's kind of his thing though, right? Isn't he like an accurate guy and then
He's a putter.
good putter and
He's a
around
putter.
the green?
But for me this week, that is not.
Yeah, you're kind of neutralized.
That's not the mold for me. But just like Rory last week, if he all of a sudden flushes his irons, like Rory was flushing putts, then you just kind of have to tip your cap and say, well, I got beat.
Yep.
That's what happened last week.
All right, you got anything else?
I think that's it. Just keep in mind that Scotty Scheffler's probably going to win. And then you better pick the rest of the top 10.
It's so unfortunate because it just does nothing for your out. Like I'm gonna have to. I never want to bet each
If you
way.
got the balls though to not pick Scotty this week, I'm telling you, he's gonna. I don't have projected ownership yet. He's gonna be like 50% owned on DraftKings, which is crazy for a full field. But he will be.
I mean, I don't know how many lineups I'll have. I'm obviously more in the betting side of things, but it doesn't. He does make it harder to be like, let me put $100 down in bets versus $100 on DK lineups because it just feels like he changes everything.
For me, this week he's a free square. You just start there and figure out the rest, and hope you nail the right $7,000 guys, and even maybe sneak an $8,000 guy in there just to kind of be different.
Yeah,
because I feel like the most popular build is going to be like Scotty, JT, then like 2 6K guys, and then 2 like 7K guys, like low 7K guys.
Yeah. We didn't mention this at all, but first round leaders, obviously, I will post plays for that on X. It's hard when we record Monday, obviously. Tuesday's even a little bit hard because we don't have tee times yet. I think that I haven't looked this up, but I do know that like the 11, 12, 13 stretch of holes it typically plays more difficult than the rest of the course. Based on that, I would assume that some of the past first round leaders have started on 1. I will look into that, and then I will again post my plays on X like I've done the last couple of weeks. They've panned out. If you haven't been following, unfortunately for you, that sucks. But yeah, I just make sure that you look out for that tweet. I'm gonna have Chandler follow up that tweet with his own tweet if he's got guys that he's bet as well, so that way we can have all of our plays kind of out in the open. So, but yeah, I'm ready for this week. I'm ready. I think we have a good chance to win some money here. Between Harris English, Russell Henley last week, and then now this week, I want to hit on a double or a 4-digit bet.
It almost was last week, man. Lowry would have been 4 digits. Tom Kim would have been 4 digits.
Yeah.
That hurt.
Well, we'll get it back this week. We'll get it back. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. Make sure you rate the show on Spotify if you're watching there, and or Apple Podcast. If you're new to sports betting in North Carolina, especially, make sure you click the link in the bio or the description of the video, not the bio. In the description of the video, you can get access to deposit matches and various bonus bets across all the sports books available to you. And good luck this week. We will see you next week. Hopefully, we're all super rich by then. We'll catch you then.